97% of people will die without ever meeting themselves. Tonight, I'm going to show you why you're probably one of them, and the 3 mistakes that guarantee you'll waste your entire life. But first, let me ask you something that will make you uncomfortable. When was the last time you spent 10 minutes completely alone? No phone, no TV, no radio, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Can't remember? Here's why that terrifies you more than death itself. You're sitting in your car after another exhausting day. The engine is off, the radio is silent, and for the first time in hours, maybe days, you're completely alone with your thoughts. That feeling rising in your chest, is it relief or is it fear? Most people can't tell the difference anymore. They've become so addicted to noise, to distraction, to the constant presence of others, that silence feels like drowning. But here's what will shock you. That uncomfortable silence, that moment when you're truly alone with yourself, that's where your real life begins. And 99% of people will spend their entire existence running from it. So what I'm about to share with you will make you angry, because I'm going to prove that you've been sabotaging your own growth through 3 fundamental mistakes. You run from solitude like it's poison, you protect your ego like it's made of glass, and you spend your life blaming everyone except the one person who holds all the power, yourself. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. We live in a world that profits from your disconnection from yourself. Every television commercial telling you what you need, every magazine promising you'll be better with their advice, every moment you fill with mindless activity, these aren't just distractions, they're escape routes. Escape from the one conversation you desperately need to have, the one with yourself. And the tragedy is, most people will live their entire lives without ever having that conversation. They'll die strangers to themselves, wondering why they never felt truly alive. As I've always said, you cannot be lonely if you like the person you're alone with. But most people hate being alone because they hate who they've become. Think about your daily routine right now. From the moment you wake up, how long before you reach for the phone? Before you turn on the television, the radio, the stereo? Most people can't make it 30 seconds. They're not addicted to their devices. They're addicted to avoiding themselves. Let me tell you about Jane. Successful businesswoman, beautiful family, what looked like the perfect life from the outside. But she couldn't spend 5 minutes alone without reaching for the telephone, turning on the TV, or creating some crisis that needed immediate attention. When I asked her what she was afraid of finding in the silence, she broke down. "If I stop moving," she said, "I might realize I've built my entire life around what other people wanted for me." That moment of honesty was the beginning of her real journey. But here's what happened next that will blow your mind. The human mind has an extraordinary capacity for self-deception. We tell ourselves we're too busy to be alone. We say we're social creatures who need constant connection. We claim we're being productive, engaged, living full lives. But strip away these stories, and what remains? Usually a deep, primal fear of meeting ourselves without masks, without roles, without the comfortable lies we've wrapped around our identity. Carl Jung, the great psychiatrist, said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And he was right. Because when you truly meet yourself, you realize how much of your life has been a performance. The first pillar of real growth is embracing solitude. Not loneliness, that's different. Loneliness is feeling disconnected even when surrounded by people. Solitude is choosing to be alone because that's where you plug into your own power source. But here's where it gets dangerous. The moment you commit to spending real time alone, your ego starts to panic. And your ego will destroy your life to protect itself. The ego, that constructed self you've been building since childhood, knows that solitude is its enemy. In silence, without an audience, without someone to impress or oppose, the ego starts to dissolve. And it will fight this dissolution with everything it has. Watch yourself the next time someone disagrees with you. Feel that heat rising, that need to defend, to prove you're right. That's not you. That's your ego fighting for its life. As Buddha taught, the ego is a false self, born of fear and conditioning. And that false self will lie, manipulate, and sabotage to stay alive. I remember Ethan, a CEO who came to me, frustrated that despite all his success, he felt empty. I've conquered every market, he said, but I can't conquer this feeling that something's missing. I asked him a simple question. When was the last time you admitted you were wrong about something important? He couldn't remember. His ego had become so inflated, so protected, that it had cut him off from reality, from learning, from growing, from feeling. Here's what nobody tells you about the ego. It's like a suit of armor you put on as a child to protect yourself from pain. But what protects you at 7 imprisons you at 47. That armor becomes so heavy, so restrictive, that you can't move naturally anymore. You can't bend, you can't dance. You can't embrace, you can only defend. Freud understood this when he said that the ego is not master in its own house. It's constantly defending against threats that exist only in memory, constantly trying to prove its worth through external achievements. Watch how people structure their entire lives around protecting their ego. They choose careers that sound impressive rather than fulfilling. They stay in relationships that make them look good rather than feel good. They accumulate achievements like trophies, hoping that one more accomplishment will finally make them feel worthy. But here's the cosmic joke. Worthiness can't be earned because it can't be lost. You were born worthy. The ego just convinced you otherwise so it could sell you a lifetime of striving. The second pillar, dropping the ego, isn't about becoming weak or passive. It's about becoming real. It's about having the courage to say, I don't know when you don't know. To say, I was wrong when you were wrong. To say, I'm scared when you're scared. This isn't weakness. This is the ultimate strength. Because when you stop defending an image, you start developing a self. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This fundamental truth means that dropping your ego defenses actually increases your power, not decreases it. But even if you embrace solitude, even if you begin dismantling your ego, there's still one more dragon to slay, and this might be the biggest one of all. Blame, the sweet poison that's destroying your life one resentment at a time. It tastes so good going down. It feels so righteous, so justified. After all, look at what they did to you. Look at how unfair life has been. Look at all the ways you've been wronged, overlooked, misunderstood. Here's something that might sound harsh, but it's the truth that will set you free. Every moment you spend blaming others is a moment you spend giving away your power. Every story you tell about how someone ruined your life is a story about how helpless you are. Is that really the narrative you want to live? Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, said something profound. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Let me be clear. I'm not saying terrible things don't happen. I'm not saying people don't hurt each other, betray each other, abandon each other. They do. But here's the crucial distinction. What happened to you is not your fault. How you respond to what happened to you, that's your responsibility. And in that gap between what happens and how you respond, that's where your freedom lives. I knew Amanda, who spent 20 years hating her father for leaving when she was 8. 20 years. Every failed relationship she blamed on him. Every fear of commitment. Every moment of self-doubt. Every bad decision. All his fault. Then one day she realized something that changed everything. She said, "I've been 8 years old for 20 years. I've been frozen in that moment when he walked out the door. But I'm the one who keeps replaying it. He left once. I've been leaving myself every day since." This realization shattered everything she thought she knew about her life. But here's what happened next that will shock you. Blame is comfortable because it requires nothing from you. It's a permanent excuse, a get-out-of-growth-free card. As long as it's someone else's fault, you don't have to change. You don't have to look at your patterns. You don't have to take the terrifying step of admitting that you've been co-creating your reality all along. Think about the stories you tell most often, the ones about how you were wronged, overlooked, misunderstood. Notice how practiced they are, how polished. You've told them so many times they're like well-worn paths in your mind. But where do those paths lead? To the same emotional states, the same limitations, the same life you say you want to change. Here's the paradox that will change everything. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, not blame, responsibility, is the moment you become free. Because if you created this mess, even unconsciously, then you can create something better. As I've often said, you'll see it when you believe it. If you're not a victim, you're a creator, and creators have power. But here's what nobody tells you about this journey. When you start spending real time alone, when you begin dropping your ego defenses, when you stop blaming and start taking responsibility, things get worse before they get better. You'll feel raw, vulnerable, maybe even a little crazy, because you're dismantling the operating system you've been running on for decades. You'll sit in silence and feel anxiety rising like floodwater. Your mind will generate 1,000 urgent tasks that suddenly need doing. You'll reach for the telephone like an alcoholic reaches for a bottle. This is normal. This is your psyche testing your commitment. Are you serious about growth? Or is this just another phase that will fade when it gets difficult? The ego will launch a counterattack. It will remind you of every time you tried to change and failed. It will parade your failures, your embarrassments, your weaknesses. It will tell you that you're being selfish for spending time alone, arrogant for thinking you can change. Listen to these voices. Note them, but don't believe them. They're just the death throes of an old way of being. Here's a practice that changes everything. Next time you're alone, really alone, no distractions, ask yourself this question: what am I pretending not to know? Sit with that. Don't rush to answer. Let it percolate. Because the truth is, on some level, you already know what needs to change. You know which relationships are draining you. You know which habits are holding you back. You know which fears are running your life. You're just pretending not to know because knowing would require action. And action would require change. And change would require letting go of who you think you are. Lao Tzu said, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. But most people spend their entire lives studying everyone except themselves. The mind that's always occupied is like a glass that's always full. Nothing new can enter. The ego that's always defended is like a fist that's always clenched. Nothing can be received. The person who's always blaming is like someone pushing against a door marked pull. All that effort just keeps them stuck. I've watched thousands of people transform their lives, and it always starts the same way: a moment of brutal honesty in solitude. A crack in the ego's armor. A decision to stop telling the old story. It's not dramatic. There's no lightning bolt, no choir of angels. Just a quiet shift from "this is happening to me" to "I am happening." You want to know the real reason people avoid being alone? It's not boredom. It's not loneliness. It's the terror of discovering that the life they're living isn't the life they want. That the person they become isn't who they are. In silence, illusions shatter. And most people would rather live in a comfortable lie than an uncomfortable truth. But here's what waits on the other side of that discomfort. Freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want. That's just another ego trap. Real freedom. The freedom to be who you are without apology, without pretense, without the exhausting performance of trying to be someone else's idea of acceptable. Rumi, the great poet, understood this when he wrote, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." When you drop the ego, you stop needing to win every argument because you realize there's nothing to defend. When you stop blaming, you stop being a victim because you realize you have choice. When you embrace solitude, you stop fearing abandonment because you realize the one person you need most, you, is always there. Let me tell you about Cassie. She complained constantly about her controlling mother. Every conversation was about boundaries violated, autonomy stolen, life interfered with. Then one day she called me, voice shaking. "I just realized something," she said. "I'm 35 years old, and I still organize my entire life around either pleasing my mother or rebelling against her. Either way, she's still in control. The person I blame for controlling me is the person I've given all my power to." That's the cosmic joke of blame. The people we resent most are often the ones we've made into gods. We give them the power to ruin our day with a comment, wreck our mood with a memory, control our choices from a distance. And then we blame them for having the very power we gave them. You want to know if you're ready for real growth? Answer these questions honestly. Can you spend an entire day alone without feeling anxious? Can you be wrong without feeling worthless? Can you tell the story of your life without casting yourself as the victim? If the answer to any of these is no, you know where your work is. The journey I'm describing isn't easy. If it were, everyone would do it. But it's simple. Spend time alone every day. Real time, uncomfortable time. Time when you're not productive, not entertained, not distracted, just present. Watch your ego perform its gymnastics. Notice it, but don't feed it. When blame arises, and it will, ask yourself, how is this serving me? What does staying angry give me that taking responsibility wouldn't? Because here's the ultimate truth. You are not your thoughts. You are not your story. You are not your successes or your failures. You are not what happened to you, or what you did, or what you... You are the awareness experiencing all of that. And when you touch that awareness, even for a moment, everything changes. The need to defend evaporates. The need to blame dissolves. The need to escape disappears. Because you realize there's nowhere to go. You're already home. The world will not applaud this journey. There's no newspaper article about inner work. No magazine feature about ego dissolution. No public recognition for taking responsibility. This is invisible work with visible results. People will notice you've changed, but won't understand how. You'll become calmer, but more powerful. Quieter, but more present. Softer. Some relationships won't survive your growth. The people who needed you to stay small, to stay defensive, to stay in the blame game, they'll feel threatened by your transformation. Let them. Your job isn't to make everyone comfortable with your evolution. Your job is to evolve. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more comfortable you become with being alone, the better your relationships become. The more you drop your ego, the more authentic power you access. The more you take responsibility, the more freedom you experience. Everything you were seeking outside was always inside, waiting for you to stop running long enough to find it. Take Patrick, for example. He spent years looking for the perfect partner to complete him. Relationship after relationship failed because he was bringing an incomplete person to the table. When he finally learned to be whole alone, he attracted someone who was also whole. Their relationship wasn't about filling emptiness. How people treat you is their karma. How you react is yours. This ancient wisdom applies to every relationship in your life. This isn't motivational fluff. This is the architecture of transformation. Every spiritual tradition, every wisdom teaching, every person who's ever broken free points to the same truth. The prison is self-connected, and so is the key. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. But I'll take it further. The unexamined life is not really living at all. So here's my challenge to you. Stop. Just stop. Stop running from yourself. Stop protecting an image that's killing your spirit. Stop giving your power away to people who don't even know they have it. Start with 10 minutes of real solitude tomorrow. Start with one moment of admitting you don't know. Start with one story you stop telling. Because your life, your real life, not the performance, not the story, not the careful construction of acceptable identity, is waiting. It's been waiting your whole life, waiting for you to be brave enough to be alone, humble enough to be wrong, strong enough to stop blaming, conscious enough to choose. The person you're meant to be isn't somewhere else, in some other time, after some other achievement. That person is here, now, hidden beneath the noise, the ego, and the blame. All you have to do is stop adding layers and start removing them. All you have to do is come home to yourself. And when you do, when you finally meet yourself, without masks, without stories, without excuses, you'll wonder how you ever lived any other way. You'll wonder why you waited so long. But then you'll understand. Every teacher, every tradition, every whisper of wisdom has been saying the same thing. Be still and know. Drop the act and become real. Stop blaming and start living. The message has always been there. You just had to become quiet enough to hear it, humble enough to receive it, brave enough to live it. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. That cave is solitude. That treasure is yourself. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not after you fix yourself, not when you're ready, now. Because the truth is, you'll never be ready for the life you're meant to live. You can only be willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be wrong, willing to let go, willing to discover that everything you've been searching for has been searching for you. The question isn't whether you can do this. You can. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll choose the discomfort of growth over the comfort of stagnation. Whether you'll choose the vulnerability of truth over the safety of lies. Your real life is calling. It's always been calling. Stop running from yourself and you'll hear it. Drop the ego and you'll feel it. Let go of blame and you'll live it. This isn't the end of our time together. This is the beginning of your journey, the journey home. The journey to the only place you've ever needed to be. Fully, unapologetically, courageously, yourself. The choice is yours. It always has been. Choose wisely. Choose bravely. But most of all, choose. Because not choosing is a choice too. And that clock you hear ticking, that's your life, waiting for you to live it.